D, then hold DS. Yeah. Yeah, I do need to reset my PC. I guess I'll do it after this one.
You're looking good.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Fuck you. Fuck you. No.
Something don't feel too good.
No, it's just getting to it in a smooth motion without like bringing out a gun or something is really hard. It's one thing to do a glitch, it's another to do it in a way that's visually appealing. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay. So 2 more. Haven't I done this one before? I need a map.
Ready and excited.
Get ready.
I need a break.
Today's not gonna be easy.
I'm going to go. Potentially come back later. Maybe play some Dark Souls or something. I am just not feeling today at all. Thank you guys for keeping me company. My ramblings and stuff. Bye-bye,
Edgar,
guys.
wake up.
That's right, everybody. Today
The
I'm
Jump Master.
explaining multiverse theory to my dog. Yeah. Are you awake?
Sake.
Yeah.
Cool.
So, this
Get
is not going to
ready.
be an
Moving on.
educational video. Do not take what I say as fact. It's just a way for me to see if I understand it. And I should at least be able to explain it. Right, Edgar? And I think it's really freaking cool. So hopefully this will spark some interest for other people rather than me saying, okay, this is how it is. Don't do that. Don't listen to me. I'm just explaining to my daughter. But, you know, we're all familiar with multiverse theory. We've all heard about it in some sort of sci-fi movie or regular movie in general. They always come up. Everyone knows about it. But I want to understand, how does it actually work? What's the actual idea behind it being theoretically possible? So I found the experience of trying to understand multiverse theory extremely annoying. Because well, what happened was new terms that I have no base knowledge of these things, but new terms would always come up while trying to understand something. So I have to look up what that means. And while looking up what that means, another term comes up and I have to look up what that means. And then when I look up what that means, another term comes up and then I have to look up what that means. And I'm just getting further and further and further away from actually understanding anything. But that ends now. The goal of this video, it might not be the most perfect explanation, but I want anyone to watch this and try and understand as well. That's my goal. We're gonna keep this simple, baby, and we're gonna keep this crystal clear so even my dumb dog Edgar understands. You are watching this video now, but in the video, if you make it through, you're gonna be like, huh, I get it. I get multiverse theory. That's what we're doing. Now, I said that I got really frustrated, but in reality, a lot of these things that annoyed me at first turn out to be really, really cool concepts and ideas that I actually found really, really interesting. So trying to understand multiverse theory and all that has actually been really, really fun. I love
Level 2.
this video is more of me being excited and wanting to talk about it. So take it as that. Again, not an instructional video. So, multiverse theory is generally, as far as I understand, divided into 4 levels. So there's level 1, level 2, level 3. And I don't think there's a specific reason to why they're called levels. It's not like you have to go from one level to another. It's just a way to separate all these different ideas. So we're gonna start off with level 1. We're gonna start at level 3. And it's super fascinating. So let's start off with level 1. Level 1 you probably already familiar with in some sense. It's the first one I've ever heard about. And it's the idea that our universe, or there's infinite universe, infinite space, since you exist by mere chance, probability that structure of particles that just happen to be, and it's just a matter of, okay, well, how far would you have to then travel for the probability of another same set of particles being structured in the same sense. I remember hearing about this multiverse theory in I don't know if you've seen this movie The Beach, where Leo is like making kind of, let's see what he says.
30 seconds, rings close. 301 here.
I'm looking for a thermite grenade, fam.
Thermite grenade here.
Shut up. It's cool. It's cool, right? It's cool. It's cool to imagine the idea that another version of you is out there. Right, Edgar?
Optics here. Close red.
It's also kind of hopeful.
Just giving my shield a recharge.
Here, at least in another universe, someone else is doing way better. You can only hope I'm in the good universe, right? You're having a great time, aren't you? Yeah, do you understand? So this is generally seen as the least controversial idea of a multiverse. So picturing space and how big it is something I wasn't really familiar with. Apparently the way we distinguish it, it seems like I just didn't pay attention in school at all, but apparently the way we distinguish our universe is what we call our observable universe. And it's basically how far light has traveled since Big Bang. Anything beyond that we can't see because light hasn't reached those areas yet. And it spans 42 billion light years. So even though you try and imagine infinite space, to me that makes more sense that the universe is infinite, because if it's finite, then what the f is beyond the edge of the finite? Huh? Is there just a sign that says, hey, space ends here, stop here, can't go further? But I guess in a sense we do have an observable universe, but we do imagine that whatever is outside our observable universe is just like space outside our universe. Cool. Great. Max actually did a really cool experiment. Max Tegmike,
Energy ammo here.
he's the one that categorized multiverse theory into these levels. And he actually did a calculation to see, okay, if we are just random particle structured, how far would we then have to travel to reach another multiverse, an identical parallel universe?
Come and get your birthday present.
And he came up with the number 10 to
Half the squad's left, no time to be tired.
Then raised 118. Is that meters? Doesn't sound that far, right? You imagine that 4 times 10 to raise our universe is 4 times 10 to raise 26. That doesn't sound far at all. That's 14 billion light years. You try and imagine that number? You can't. You just can't possibly even picture how far that is. But it is kind of cool that you can imagine how far to travel for another universe. There's a good picture to draw for our observable universe. Moving on. Everyone satisfied with the multi-layer one multiverse theory? Yeah? Random? It's kind of weird to imagine that you exist by sheer probability, right? I don't like the thought that much, to be honest. So, universe B, anything can happen. That's basically the level 1 multiverse. Oh, your tongue is out! Now, are you ready for multiverse level 2? I think this is where it gets really interesting. So level 2 uses this fantastic discovery that I had never heard about. I wonder if now that probably a lot of you who are younger than me are learning about this in school, but it's a cosmic microwave background, which is basically sort of map of our universe. It's the oldest radiation that exists in our universe, and they dated it back to 380,000 years after the Big Bang. So discovering this cosmic microwave background, also it's a great proof for that the Big Bang did happen, even though there are already many things, evidence for it. Okay, then we're not here to debate that. But the cosmic microwave background is the sort of thing that just gives a lot of information about our universe. But it also gave us information that sort of makes things difficult to understand Big Bang. Scientists discovered 2 fatal flaws, and so those big flaws are very important. And the first one is the horizon problem. I don't know, I just think this is so interesting. So, if you look at the cosmic microwave background, and you look at 2 opposite ends of it, you're looking at opposite ends of the universe. And what they realized was that these 2 different ends of the universe are way too uniform. By the decimal to the decimal to the decimal. I don't know how to express it, but they are so uniform that they would have had to been in contact at some point. It's kind of like how you mix 2 fluids together, right? You mix G fuel with powder, eventually it finds a uniform taste. This is the greatest example I've ever done. Can you sit still? I'm trying to explain to you. So this is the horizon problem, but the real problem about this is that to travel in between them, they are so far away that it would take longer to travel between them than the universe have ever existed. So theoretically, it's impossible for these to be that far apart. So how can 2 pieces of the universe be so uniform alike that they would have to been close at some point, be so far away?
Calling in a lifeline package.
Focus. So that's one issue. The other issue is the flatness problem, which I really struggle with, and I think I've learned everything about it, and at the end of the day, all you really have to understand is the universe is really flat. In fact, it's so flat that it's puzzling just how flat it is. That's the flatness problem. I don't want to know, I don't know how much detail I should get into this. It's one of those things where I just went around in circles. I'm like, what does flat mean? How can the universe be flat? I don't really understand any of this. I don't know what the best way to explain it is. Hello? Hello? So, I guess all you need to know, in scientific terms, without complicating things too much, there's something called the density perimeter. It's this omega sign that you see. And it sort of helps us determine what the shape of the universe is. The density perimeter is based on, I think, gravity and mass. The density perimeter is the ratio of the average density of matter and energy in the universe to the critical density. Oh, thank you. I totally understand what that means. To be honest, the math behind it is very understand, so it doesn't really matter. What you do have to understand is that if this density perimeter is bigger than 1, the universe shape will be smaller than 1. The shape of the universe will be bent like a strush. I don't know what it's called. And if this is 1, it's the universe. So I gotta be honest, I'm not 100% sure. But they draw this example when if you add up all the angles of the triangle, it's 90 degrees, then that means it's flat, right? If it's bigger or smaller, then that means the universe has these two. And I suppose you can do that with a CMB data, pick the points that are very far from the universe, and sort of tell the angles to add up. Does that make sense? I gotta be honest, I'm not entirely sure if that's exactly how they do it, but that makes sense in my head at least. Because things can appear to us as flat, like this picture D here, even though they are a sphere. So we need data that are really far away, and I suppose you can do that with the cosmic microwave background because it maps our universe. But the problem is, I suppose, what they found is that the universe is super flat. What would have been cool if the universe wasn't flat is that we could actually calculate the size because we would know the curvature. And by that logic, you can then calculate the size of the universe. So the thing about this density perimeter is when time passes, it naturally curves. Okay, that's all you need to know really from what I've all said. We have this way of measuring the curve of the universe, and naturally, the more time passes, the more it curves. And if you imagine from the point of Big Bang to the size that the universe is now, the preciseness of if this was completely flat, the preciseness of that in the beginning, from what I understand, just is too precise. It just seems so unlikely that we would find ourselves in this flat universe with Big Bang in mind, right? I hope I make sense here. I wish I could be like, any questions? Because I don't really get it either, so help me. But I think in reality, all we need to know here is that there's the horizon problem. Two different parts of the universe are way too alike, and the flatness problem, which is that the universe is too freaking flat, dude. It's too flat, my dude. So flat, dude. In comes, to explain this, inflation theory. And it proposes that the universe rapidly, I don't know if rapidly even remotely begins to explain just how fast inflation happened. It means that the universe expanded faster than the speed of light, from being the most smallest thing we could ever observe to the size of our observable universe in a matter of a fraction of a second, even fraction of a second. Our universe had this incredible, unbelievable exponential growth in such a small period of time. I had never heard of inflation theory before, and in the beginning it was just really confusing because you never heard about it, right? What the fuck? What is this cosmic inflation shit? Maybe they teach kids this in school now, but here's the cosmic microwave background. Here's where inflation happened. So just a tiny portion of our time span in the universe. Inflation. Imagine instead of the Big Bang, imagine the big...
Let's explore this way.
I don't know how to explain it. But I think the cool thing about inflation is that, you know, you're taught that nothing can travel faster than the speed of light in school, right? But it kind of makes sense that space itself can expand. Space being bigger, this is what objects in space can travel. That is the limitation. So this inflation theory doesn't break any laws of physics and conservation of energy or anything like that. And Alan Guth, who came up with this theory, explains it that we normally look at gravity as some sort of attraction with objects. So but gravitation can also be repulsion. So what he says is that the universe was uniform. It had the uniformity before inflation took place, and it was flat before inflation took place, which makes sense. It would make way more sense that in the beginning it was flat anyway. And then from this tiny, tiny universe, this is so weird to think about, but then inflate it to the observable universe that we have today. And it sounds sort of fanatical and crazy, and I kind of don't even know if I believe it, to be honest.
I'm recharging my shields.
But there has been evidence of the inflation theory with quantum fluctuation ripples or some shit like that. I don't really get it. I'm not getting into that. Inflation from monetary. And it sort of beautifully explains this. Inflation theory also creates the reason why I make which is the fact that once inflation starts, or almost all version that explains inflation, eventually leads to that there's no reason that inflation should stop. And here's where I get, honestly, I get kind of confused, and I'm gonna try my best to explain the way I understand. If anyone want to help me in the comments, I would love it. So from what I gather, is that this gravitational repulsion comes from a certain state of mass. And this mass is very unstable. It can decay rapidly. So it starts decaying, but by the time it has already increased in size by itself. So this decaying mass is like a local Big Bang. Is the one out of infinite. Inflation is just decay, Big Bang.
Need some help over here.
Inflation. Okay. You ready this shit?
One line's
Keeps
behind
going.
you.
Inflation. Local Big Bang. Are you asleep? What is this video? Oh god. Okay. Anyway, I think what's cool about inflation or eternal inflation
You are the apeX champion.
is that it's scientists looking at how universes are created, what happens before. Apparently, this is the level 2 multiverse and how it's made, and the other ones could even not defy our laws of physics, but they could have different laws of physics based on how the universe is created. There's a bunch of details on this that it gets way too complicated for me to understand, but the general principle is that the problem with inflation theory is well accepted and well understood, but if you accept inflation, you also kind of have to accept eternal inflation. And if you accept eternal inflation, since something is eternal and can eventually lead to a Big Bang, that means it's infinite Big Bangs. I read somewhere that Stephen Hawking, like a couple years ago in his one of his last, I didn't really read into it, but I think he was disputing this idea of eternal inflation, and it's still a more controversial piece of multiverse theory than the first one, for example. But to summarize, multiverse level 2, inflation, the big never stop, keep making other Big Bang. That's all you gotta know, baby. You understand? Great. Now we're going to level 3, Edgar, and holy shit, okay? Level 3 blew my fucking mind, okay? It's so weird and so awesome, and I don't believe it. I don't believe it, Edgar. So to understand level 3 multiverse, you have to understand a little bit of quantum physics, which I don't understand. A famous Nobel Prize physicist said that if you think you understand quantum physics, you don't understand quantum physics, which is just a play of making you understand just how weird quantum physics is. But all you need to know, really, is that quantum physics is describing the smallest parts of our universe: atoms, electrons, protons? Yeah, protons, molecules, and whatnot. Basically what creates everything around us, right? Our building blocks of our universe. And as far as I understand, in quantum physics, you describe things as waves. And in comes this wave function, okay? To me, this is really weird, and I felt like someone just skipped like 50 parts of something. So you're telling me we can't depict an electron as a particle, but we depict it as a wave? What the f does that mean? So this wave function is a mathematical function to describe the probability of where we can find an electron, for example, or a quantum particle. Nothing is precise when you're talking these tiny baby tiny small things. So we have to use this probability wave function, right? That makes sense to me. But what we can do is use this wave function to get fairly accurate results, even though it is probability. But from what I understand is that we don't know if the wave function is real because no one's ever seen it.
Gold
It's
goes so well
just
with a diamond like
a
me.
mathematical way to describe an electron. And they did an experiment on it that is mentioned apparently all the time, to the
I
point
was
where people are
created for
sick of
this,
hearing about this
I think.
experiment. But I totally understand, because this experiment, the double slit experiment, probably
Spent
the
gunpowder.
strangest thing I've
Smells
ever
like
heard
victory.
about. And I can't believe I've never heard about it. And if you've never heard about it, what a pleasure it is for me to explain it to you, because it's the weirdest fucking thing I've ever heard. It's so weird. So I actually do remember in school learning about waves and light particles a little bit. So I looked it up. So Thomas Young in the 1800s was trying to determine light. Okay, what is
Get
light?
ready. We're
Is it
about
a
to do some
particle?
fun.
Is it a wave? Apparently there was a whole dispute between Newton and this guy. They butted heads. No, it's light is a particle. No, light acts like a wave, right? So Thomas Young did an experiment where he shone a light through a slit, and on the back wall of where he shone the light, an interference pattern showed up. And an interference patterns can only really occur if waves are interfering with each other. I don't know how to explain this better than just showing a picture. So you have light waves, they pass through this barrier, and then it's kind of like water waves, I guess. Two drops in water, they both interfere with each other, and it creates this sort of striped pattern at the wall. You probably know about this in school, because for some reason I remember this in school. But all you really need to know is that the light wave passes through these slits. It interferes with each other, and it creates this pattern. And this can only really occur since it's a wave and it passes through both of the slits at the same time. Okay? That's all you need to understand
What
here.
can I say?
So Thomas
This
Young
blood's what
observed this and
really
was like,
changes a girl.
light, it's waves. Got him. Proved it. Later on, what I said, light can be particles. I remember learning this, and I was like, okay, sure. Think about it. How can something be two things at the same time? It makes no fucking sense. So, what these motherfuckers did is they did an experiment on it, and they should never have done this experiment. I'm joking, but it's sort of like testing a paradox. You know, how can things be two things at the same time? And I think that's the thing with quantum physics, is that it just doesn't make sense like that. An electron can be in an excited state and in a low energy state, or whatever it's called, at the same time. Quantum particles can be two things at the same time, and that's just a weird thing to try and wrap your head around. So they actually tested this, which I think, I don't know, it just blows my mind with the double slit experiment. And if you already heard about it, yeah, roll your eyes, whatever, you heard about it 1,000 times, good for you. But basically what they did is they, I don't know how, because it must have been extremely tiny, right? They did this double slit experiment, but they did it with electrons. And electrons, right? So we describe it as a wave. Now we're gonna find out what is an electron. Wave is a particle. Because this wave function has been so far an excellent way to describe it. But now we will see in reality. So if you picture this double slit experiment, what you imagine will happen when you shoot, let's say these dots aren't electrons, let's say they are a bunch of eggs. You're throwing eggs through two slits in a wall, and you expect to find the eggs smashed on the wall. In the middle. This pattern makes sense. Throw egg, they hit the wall. Okay. What happened? So the electrons created this interference where we actually have eggs or electrons, rather, which is weird. That shouldn't happen unless electrons act like a wave. So, as far as I understand, when the electron hits the wall and when you see it on the wall, that means that the wave function, it has collapsed. So the electron no longer acts like a wave, but has now become a particle. And that's why you see it at the back of the wall. Does that make sense? it's sort of imagining that, ignore these dots here and imagine a wave. It's a wave, it's a wave, electron is a wave, and then it hits the wall, it's a particle. That's the wave function collapsing. Because when they did the test, the electron acts like a wave passing through the thing, otherwise it wouldn't be able to make this pattern. It's a wave, it's a wave, it's a wave, it's a wave, hits the wall, wave function collapses, it's a particle. Does that make sense? I think I explained that pretty well.
This way.
Yeah.
Found some material.
Yeah. So here's what that looked like, right? But then you could say is, okay, well, maybe they're just shooting, you know, they're, okay, I'm throwing in just like fucking crazy at particles. So what you could argue is that, well, the way is that if an electron passes through one object at the same time, how can one object be in two places at the same time? It don't make sense. It don't make sense. It don't. So the theory was that, okay, well, it, you know, you're shooting a bunch of electrons through, you know, they're probably interfering with each other, okay? And they're not passing through at the same time. Just say, with each other creating this pattern. So what they did with this experiment, it was really crazy, is that they shot them really slow, like, electron. So there's no way that two electrons could interfere with each other. Guess what? The interference pattern still showed up. Boom. Crazy, right? Fucking crazy. This is some sci-fi shit. How did that happen? Guess what? It gets so weird. I don't even want to say it. So what they did was, okay, well, all right, cool. How the fuck does that happen? I'm sure this is how the scientist said it. You know what? Let's add an observer. Let's add a light that detects which one of these slit the electron is passing through. So we can understand what the fuck is happening here. How is this electron acting like a wave? We're gonna add an observer and we're finally gonna understand how can this electron act like a wave and be a particle at the same time. We're gonna have the proof. We're gonna get it now. We're gonna get that stupid electron. What happened? It's a particle now.
Contact.
You add an observer, the electron acted like a particle.
I am using fire, friends.
This is so dumb. This is so fucking dumb. How?
Double timing it.
So just by adding an observer to an electron, the wave function collapsed as soon as it was observed, as opposed to when it hits the wall. So adding an observer to an electron collapses the wave function. Basically, an electron behaves differently depending if it's being observed or not. I guess it is a bit of a fallacy to assume that an observer is something passive. Because when you're looking at things at such a small level, just by saying, okay, I'm just looking at you, I'm not doing anything, you're still in a way interacting with it by observing with the electron. I think at least. I'm not sure if that's true, but that makes sense in my they should change. What is it, an acting school? Where are you? A wave or particle? So, you know, why does a wave function collapse when it's being observed? There's a lot of theories behind it. There's probably better ones, and I didn't talk about them. But the reason I'm making this video is to talk about multiverse theory. And one of the ways to explain, and it, you know, as crazy as it sounds, a way to actually explain why the wave function collapses is to look into multiverse. And it says that
안녕하세요.好了吗？好啦，开始吧，这么晚。